Hey everybody, Sam here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video of us documenting our fence build project which happened over the summer of 2023. In case you missed it, part 1 of this mini-series is linked down below. That's when we rented the hydraulic post driver and we installed all of the wood posts around the perimeter of our property. This video is special because we have a literal special guest. We have Van from Bekaert Fencing who joined us on site to give us tips and tricks, train me and Angela on how to do fencing because we honestly don't have much experience, and otherwise help us through the most difficult portion of our perimeter fence project, which was doing our back line, which is a little over 900 feet, which also goes over the steepest part of our property. This video is going to be probably a little bit choppy because it was a literal training day, work day for myself. So it's going to be filled with some segments here and there, some definite professional tips and tricks on fencing, and otherwise hopefully entertaining or more educational on a lot of the questions and answers, tips and tricks, or best practices when it comes to fencing. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So we're here with Van from Bekaert, and he is absolutely the fence pro. I'm not, Angela's not, but we've got him and I want to pick his brain. Van, tell us about H-braces.
So to start with, any fence you build, the brace is the heart of it. If you do not build a good brace, it doesn't matter how good the wire is, how much effort, how many posts you put in line. This brace fails, you're going to have a slack fence. Slack fence can be dangerous to animals because when you start getting waves in it, that's where they get their feet hooked in the fence. They can potentially step in. So there's a lot of hazard or injury risk if you don't build a good brace and you start getting slack. So on this line of fence here, we're going to pull this fence from the post on this end of the brace. So we're going to have tension on it. And what it'll do is as that tension pulls and tries to pull that post over, it's going to transfer down this top rail to the line post of this brace. And then we put a twitch wire that goes back to the base of our pull post. And what that'll do is this will get tighter and tighter as this tries to rack over. But one thing we did here is we used a 10-foot top rail. So we're building a 4-foot fence basically when it's all finished out. So it'll transfer the force down this top rail to your line post. So you do get some holding power from this line post with the fact that it's in the ground about 3 feet, and or actually a little over 3 feet. But then as it starts trying to rack, it transfers the power back down your twitch wire to the base of your pull post, and that's what gives it strength. If you build these properly, you're going to have about 11,000 pounds of tension that this can withstand. Wow. And you can say, well, I'll never pull my fence that tight, and you shouldn't pull your fence that tight. But what you got to remember is animals are going to hit this fence. If you've got a lot of deer, they're going to be jumping through, getting entangled. You may have neighbors run into the fence with a vehicle. A lot of different things can happen, but something we don't talk about too with this high tensile fence is for every degree of temperature change you get, you add 2 pounds of tension on each line wire of that fence. So we're doing an 8-strand fence plus strand of barbed wire on top. So we've got 9 strands. It's pretty hot out here today. So if we get into winter and we get down to 0, we may be adding over 100 pounds of tension on each line of fence. So we could add up over 1,000 pounds of tension just from temperature change before anything hits the fence. So.
Wow. So whenever you kind of helped us on fence layout, you made us do at least 9-foot top rail, which we did 9 foot. We're cutting some trimming here.
Yeah.
Tell us the reason why you had me do a 9-foot top rail, not like an 8-foot, or what's the math behind that?
Yep. So what you want to do is take the finished height of your fence. So we're going to be at 4 feet here. You want to be 2 to 2.5 times, preferred 2.5, but sometimes it's hard to get over an 8-foot post. But if you get to 2.5 times and you land between your second and third strand down, that gets that twitch wire under 30 degrees. You're going to be about 22, 23 degrees. But what will happen is if you hit cross 30 degrees with that twitch wire, that's where your H-braces a lot of times will start to fail because you're getting uplift. So if I'm over 30 degrees angle with my twitch wire, when an animal hits this fence out here, it's going to actually uplift on my end post, and that's what causes them to fail. If I go down even shorter to like a 6-foot top rail, and I'm at 45 degree angle, I'm actually holding up pressure on that pull post or on the brace post on the termination end. So what'll happen is then you end up actually pulling that end post out with the twitch wire. So as that happens, that's where these braces start to rack over, and then they fail prematurely.
It makes sense. Kind of acts like a lever point, kind of how T-post pullers work.
Exactly.
You got a fulcrum in the middle and you're pulling, it just pulls it right over.
And you'll notice too, we did not put a level on these top rails. We want it to run parallel with the ground, and you can really see it where you turn up the hill this way. We're standing in this corner, but we're going to turn up. You don't want to be level, because if in that case we would be over halfway down on that post, we would lose a lot of the strength of that post when you get under. You want this top rail to be at least in the top 2/3 of the post. That'll give you a lot more strength on an H-brace.
Cool. With our corner brace built here, we're going to change gears a little bit and start to hammer in our T-posts. We're walking off the distance between this end of the brace to our next line post. Then we're going to split the difference and space our T-posts evenly at about a 15 to 20 foot spacing. These are 6-foot T-posts that we're using, and to drive them in, while I only have a manual tool, Van has a really cool gas powered driver, so we'll definitely get to check that one out.
Should be right up here.
Sorry, I should have leaned it over for you.
Oh, you're good.
I tell you, you know you've got the right tools for the job when the slowest part of the process is just walking and measuring stuff out. Driving the post, a piece of cake. That gas-powered T-post driver is amazing. If I ever had to do a lot of fencing, I would definitely buy one. I'm glad Van has one though. It means I don't have to buy it, we can just borrow it. So we're all done here at the bottom. We've worked our way over to the top of this hill. So let's grab you guys, we'll go over there. We're gonna continue working on this, our back line. This is the longest pool we've got. It's also the one that's most interesting because it goes up and over the steepest part of our property. So let's bring you guys up to the top, keep on working across to the end, driving those T-posts.
So what we're gonna do is to get these off, you'll have guys tell you they can cut that, cut it 5 times and it still won't come apart. If you cut these in the middle, and go all the way down like so. Cut your top one because it's a hinged wrap. Once you get there, they'll pull apart. Take your blade pliers or your lineman pliers, grab that, bend it, and that loosens that knot up. They'll slide right off. Okay. So what we're going to do here with these T-clips, gripple T-clips, you hang them and you see you got the big hole there. If you put it up, it makes it easier when you get to the bottom. But you'll hang it on the wire, come around your post, and then insert, and that's a one way. So once we get everything kind of lined up where we want it, our fence positioned up and down, then what we'll do is go ahead and pull everything up snug to that post. So, and these do come with the release key, Sam. So if you ever need to release one, or we get one a little bit cattywampus on there somehow, you do have the option to release it and kind of start over. What I'm doing is I'm using this stay here and I'm straightening it up. You can see how I'm tailing in. So to make sure we get a good square tie and keep everything square as we're running our fence, I'll get that snugged up a little. And once we get to there, I can pull that around and straighten it up. But we're going to do a center pull because we've got a heck of a hill here. So we're going to go up, terminate the far end, and then center pull to the middle. That way we can watch this hillside and then the flat that's on top. But this 842 solid lock should do a great job just rolling with the terrain, rolling right across the hill and make a really nice looking fence for us. So, Bekaert fence, when you unroll it, if you're on the livestock side, like we are here, and on the fence side, that fence will unroll from left to right. So because we had a big hill and we're doing 660 foot rolls that weigh close to 300 pounds a piece, rather than starting out with a 660 foot roll rolling up the hill, we rode this right to left, but we did it upside down. So you can see now we're walking back over, flipping this fence over to be the right way up. So that's just a little trick. If you've got a big hill to overcome right at the beginning of the road where you know you've got a lot of weight, you're gonna have to try to fight up the hill, you can actually unroll it upside down, flip it over as you walk back down the fence to get it right side up. And just an easy trick so you're not fighting hills a lot here in East Tennessee like you do. So what we're doing here is we're using the gripple medium joiners. So we use the T-clips down on the end to terminate. This is the way to join burrows together. This solid lock actually comes with the joiners on it. So, and what they do is they've got a ceramic roller on the inside. It'll let fence pass through in one direction, but not come back out. So it's just a good, quick, easy way to join rows of wire together. So they work really well. You just slide up. What we did with these long tails is we cut right beside stays, and that way we can line this up, keep working our way in with it. And once we get up to where those are touching, see they're all right at even, that'll maintain a nice even pull or an even spacing in here. So then if you back up or when you're driving by, you're basically going to have a 12-inch stay where we join the two rows together. So just a nice easy way to fasten together versus either some form of hand tying or using crimp sleeves. So all right, we'll unroll this, go down to the far end and get terminated, then come back and do the center pull on this fence. So
Do you need more slack?
not yet, no. I will, but on the top. All right, so what I'm doing here is I'm pulling this wire through my T-clips and getting it up snug on my termination post, taking my time and using this vertical stay over here to make sure we're getting good and straight with it. That way we've got a good straight pull, because if you start off crooked, it'll be crooked no matter what you do. So So Sam, what we're doing here is we're putting our stretcher bar in, one of them to do the center pull. We know we're doing about an 800-foot pull. So a good rule of thumb to make sure you got enough room is if you've not got a lot of slack on the ground, to go ahead and do 5 feet and plus about a foot for every 100. So we're going to start out here about 15 feet apart. But if you'll notice, I keep working this fence over. I want to use this stay as a guideline, so I've got this stretcher bar in good and straight on my wire. These here, you can tell where I've hit on them with the hammer. They're softer than the wire. You can even see where the wire's cutting in the back. So you don't have to worry about damaging your wire with them as long as they're in flush. So we're going to catch every line wire. We're going to drive them in good and tight so we don't get any slippage once we get up to tension here. Alright, so what we're doing right here is we want to make sure this chain ain't twisted up, because once we get to tension and we're getting down right to the point of being done tensioning, if this has a twist in it, your fingers on these stretcher bar pullers will not, they won't grab, and it becomes dangerous because we'll have a lot of tension on these as we go. A lot of people call these chain walkers, and you can see right here why that is, because you got little fingers on here, and those little fingers grab the chain. So as we work our handle up, they just keep grabbing. So we'll do one at the top and the bottom here. So we're gonna get our bottom hooked up next. What we're doing is making sure we can pick this up. So what we're doing is, because we're working over a rise, we're standing that fence up and feeling our tension, because every time we stand the fence up, we're going to add a lot of tension to it. And if you, with those chain walkers or stretcher bar pullers, you can put so much tension on this fence that we can't physically pull it up into place. So we're going to put tension on it, come down and check, see if we like it, then we can let off a little, add a little before we join it together in the middle. Once we get it joined together, this fence will be done other than trimming out. So we'll go back and clean up our T-clips on the ends, bend the wire back where they're not sticking out where animals can have injury, and then we'll fasten everything to the post. Doing a terrain like this, we're going to go through, we're going to fasten all the high points first, any low points we have, and then everything in between at that point. So the first post we'll staple to will actually be this one, and then the next one, because we've got a good terrain change, pick it up into place, and then we'll start tying on to everything in between. You did a great job while you were driving these posts and setting a wood post everywhere where we had terrain transition. If you don't put a wood post there, a T-post are fine for this solid lock fence, but you'll get so much tension it'll actually pull those T-posts down in the ground. With the round post or a wood post, we've got a lot more surface area. It'll help prevent it from pulling into the ground, or if you're going through a low spot, from pulling up out of the ground. The T-post will do it relatively easy. So part of this started during the post driving, and now we're doing it on the tension, going back and checking, make sure we can pick this fence up into place. Just use that, pull that little bit of tension out between your bars. All right, so we're using our Delfast staple gun here. This one's fairly unique. It is a contractor grade staple gun. It uses electric and gas here in the back. One thing that makes this one really neat is the fact that it uses a standard framing fuel cell. So if you ever, it's really hot out here, if we lay this down in the sun, you may get some leakage, or if you let it sit for a handful of months, you will get some leak out of that fuel cell. You can go to any hardware store that sells nail guns, buy a fuel cell and plug it in here. You'll get about 4,000 shots out of the battery and about 1,200 out of a fuel cell. So the staples will come, you can do 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 and 2-inch staples with this. We get a lot of questions, will it shoot into hedge or locust? It will shoot into cured locust. So they do really well. Some unique features about this gun is easy tool-free adjustment. So if I want to set my depth, you just turn this knob and it'll adjust the depth, because you want that fence, you want it tight, but just enough where that fence can move back and forth behind the staples. Easy to do. One thing about this is it doesn't use the papers to collate the staples. It uses glue. The glue lubricates the gun as well as it heats up when you shoot in. So it'll actually activate the glue on the staples. So you got it glued in, plus these are knurled staples, and you'll see about a 20 to 30% better holding out of the Delfast staples than any other staples on the market being shot out of a staple gun. So the Delfast is a great tool. You can probably do 4-to-1, 5-to-1 posts versus hand stapling. So these work really good. They really speed up the process, especially when you're doing a bigger project like this and you've got a lot of staples to drive. Saves you a ton of time. Good. Now both of these bottoms. Over here. There you go. That ain't too hard, is it?
No.
Like that?
No, too hard for me.
Alright. So what we're doing here, this comes out level, up, and then level. So we're really tight at the top, but we had a little bit of slack working through this terrain. So what these curves are tension curves. They come already in the fence, but that gives you the ability to work over flex. So you'll pull the tension curve flat on the top, and then you'll have tension curve on the bottom still there to go over a rise. If you're going through a dip, it'll pull it out on the bottom. So what we're doing, this tool here will add a little tension curve. You can take a piece of, or a pair of pliers and do it, or a hammer, use the claw. So if we wanted to use our pliers, we would just grab that curve, put a little bend in it like so. It's just a little cleaner with that tool. It looks a little more manufactured, but you'll do that over a few feet, 10 feet, 15 feet, and maintain that curve. So we're actually really tight at the bottom here, but slack at the, or tight at the bottom, slack at the top. So we're going to work these top 2 or 3 strands, putting tension curve, and just going to tighten this wire up just a little bit. What we're using here to fasten to these T-posts are the speed clips from Bekaert. These are Bezinol coated, so it's going to match the Bezinol coating on this wire. A lot of times you'll see this is a weak point on a fence. These will start to rust and begin the rust process on the wire. But these speed clips work really well with T-posts. So one thing you do with them, or how they work, you've got a deep set that'll go on the back of your tee. Just ease it right around the post, pinch it together, and then you've got the chuck that Bekaert sells, and it just slides on. So you just let it go all the way up, then hold it wide open, and it'll cut one of the tails off and just slide off, and that's all there is to it. Really fast, really easy to do. All right, so one thing with this fence we're doing here, Sam, is we used a combination of T-post and wood post, which is perfectly fine. We get asked that a lot. Can I use T-post with the fixed knot fence? And the answer is yes. But what you want to do is about every 100 feet, or use like a 4-to-1, 5-to-1 ratio of T-post to wood post. That wood post is called a line boss. A T-post does not give you a lot of lateral support if you're getting animal pressure pushing against this, whether it's your livestock or wildlife. So we'll do a wood post about every 100 to 150 feet, keeping that 4-to-1, 5-to-1 ratio, and the T-post to work perfectly fine, because what we're using them for here is to hold this fence up. We will come back in on top of it with barbed wire just to help keep larger animals from trying to lay down and ride or pick on the other side of the fence.
And with that, we're back to reality, which is the dead of winter. But hey, it was nice to spend a little bit of time in Summerland while we could. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It was great to have Van out here from Bekaert Fencing. He taught us so much, and probably so much more than we could convey in this video, but hopefully you were still able to glean some good information, had some questions answered, and found this video fun, if nothing else. Stick around for the next video in this series, because it's going to be when Angela and I work on our own, taking everything that Van taught us, applying it, and seeing how well we do as one-day trainees of fencing to do some fence runs of our own. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys next time on the homestead.